Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and I have a passion for empowering others to take responsibility for their careers. Yes, I've written several books on owning your career and am loving hosting this podcast. This podcast is for you if you're willing to make a shift to the driver's seat in your career. We feature leaders who inspire, empower, and motivate you for consistent career action for results. Please continue to join us every Sunday when a new episode is released. Let's get into this week's show. Welcome to the new season of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm always excited to come back to the show because we've got terrific guests joining us always. And today is no exception. One of my good friends, let me just say this, one of my Tricia memories, she probably remembers teaching me how to drive stick shift. I never forgot that from one of our old jobs many, many moons ago. But she's a real estate sales professional with 20 years plus marketing expertise. I'm excited to have her on the show because she's the real deal and having much success in her career. So Tricia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Simone. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So tell me what I didn't say in the beginning about your background. Tell us a little bit about, well, let's start here. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
My only passion was animals, and I had only one path, and that was to be a veterinarian. And, when you're a little kid, everything is glamorous. But when the reality sets in, and I had no trouble with school, I was an A student, National Honor Society, all that. So getting into school was not a problem. But I had a confidence issue, and I worked myself into a frenzy to think, oh my goodness, at the time that I was going to school and you had to go to undergraduate degree and then vet school, there were only 16 vet schools in the country. And I worked it in my head that I wasn't good enough and that I would not get into vet school. And if I were to choose to go to vet school outside of the country, everything I had researched indicated that that program would not allow me to pass the boards when I got to the US. So I literally worked myself into such a state that I actually stopped going to school for that. And that caused me to be in limbo because I only saw one path. I wish at the time somebody would have sat me down and said, what do you like to do? And what do you see yourself doing if it's not going to be that? Because I never, ever had an interest in being a human doctor. I wanted to be a doctor for animals. I wanted to be able to save their lives. And when that wasn't going to be my future, literally walked around aimlessly, not knowing what to do. And so I did realize that living up at school was liberating. So when that wasn't going to be my path, coming back home, I felt stifled. So I needed to find some way to get out of the house, so I wasn't living at home, and figure out what to do. And so I got a job with a marketing research company, and they said, well, if you're going to school for marketing, we'll pay for it. Okay. So
that's
I did that
right there.
It was very enticing. I was able to get out, get my own apartment, pay for school. Okay, I figured marketing, whatever. At that point, somebody was giving me a path. And so I did do that for a little bit. It was okay. I then took that skill. I was able to get a job with a publishing company in their marketing department. It was pretty old school, very, very corporate. I started to identify some things I liked and didn't like. I don't like structure at all. I also don't like to follow the rules. I am a huge rule breaker. So, and I won't say breaker. I bend the rules just enough before they break. And in this environment that I was in, the industry was a very old style way of working in a corporate environment. I hated it. So I was able to then get a job in a completely different environment. It was a technology company. They made software for corporations, and they were the complete opposite. You could wear jeans to work. They had like games and things that you can do. It was a young company. They were growing at the speed of light. I was like, yeah, this is much more my speed. But in the middle of pushing my career through that path, an opportunity came that really changed the direction of my life. My dad decided to stop working he was working for one of the big 8 accounting firms, and he decided to start his own firm and wanted me to join him. So I thought, oh my gosh, entrepreneurial, I could do my own thing. And so I left. And that was a huge decision in my life. I didn't see necessarily where it was going to take me. It sounded good today. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to see it, some good things happened and some bad things happened. From the bad side, it broke my relationship with my family. They did not appreciate what I brought to the table. I realized that they were of a different mindset than I am, and it was best that we went our separate ways. By doing that, again, I was faced with a fork in the road. I know I could have just gone back to my previous company and they would have hired me back. And that was safe and something that I knew what was laying ahead of me. But I did not want to do that. In the core of my body, I'm an entrepreneur. I am not someone's corporate lackey. So I'm actually risk averse, but I take risks when I know that somewhere deep inside, it just feels right. And this felt right. So I went ahead, I jumped on board with my dad. That didn't work. And I decided to pursue my own thing. And it was scary. I had a little girl, I had a husband, we had a mortgage. I was definitely, my family counted on my income to pay our bills, and there was no guaranteed paycheck. And so I had to hustle and I had to be creative, but I did it. And then there came a point where, like, the first 6 months was great. I touched all my warm contacts. Guys, stop. And business was coming in, but then it wasn't. And I had to figure things out. And I remember my husband sitting me down and he said, you have 6 weeks worth of income left. What are you going to do? And I wanted to cry and I wanted to be sad. But the reality is that wasn't going to move me to the next level. So as I was trying to build this,
there so I can come in. Let me pause you there because you said a lot of great things. I'm going to let you keep talking, but let me come in. And let me just say, this show is about being in the driver's seat. And what that means is that you are intentional with your career. You're very hands-on in the driver's seat and not letting other people direct your outcomes. So would you say, at what point did you feel like you're in the driver's seat? Because now it feels like you are in the driver's seat, but along the journey you took us on, at what point did you feel, although you may have been in the driver's seat the whole time, but tell me about the driver's seat and your awareness around being in the driver's seat in your career.
I don't think I actually was in a true driver's seat until I switched careers. Everything that I did while I owned my marketing company was because that was what I fell into. And I thought that was all I had as an option. So I just did it. So to say that I was in the driver's seat, yes, I directed how that company was run and how we served our clients, what kind of employees I brought on board. I made decisions, but there was a small part of me that needed the acceptance of my husband or others around me to say, yeah, you're doing the right thing, because I was always unsure. It was a very scary ride. I did it for 20 years and I did not feel like I was cruising down the road with control. I felt like I was driving in a snowstorm and at any time I was going to slide off the road and crash.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It brought lots of anxiety and fear. And so a lot of decisions sometimes that were made me safer than it needed to be, because I didn't want to slide off the road. I needed to figure out how to get control. And sometimes I was in control, but I always felt like maybe I wasn't. And that was scary to me.
So let me ask you, with these different experiences, you've got the marketing, you've got the real estate and other, family experiences. What do you think are the key ingredients for successfully owning your career? What's necessary?
So for me, I think what was working was when I can identify the things I can't do, because you can't do everything. And it's whether you're working for somebody else or working for yourself, there has to come a point in time where you say, here's the core skill set that I have and the things that I would like to do in my day, because you might have skill set, but it may not necessarily be something that you want to do. When you can identify the combination of those things, then you need to surround yourself by experts in all those other areas that you can't do. And it may be collaborative, maybe you partner with another group, or maybe it's how you hire. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they do a bad job in hiring. I actually wanted to hire people who were smarter than I am, because if you surround yourself by excellence, you have to work hard to compete. You don't want to be the dumb one in the room, or the least experienced. So it causes you to step up your game, but then you can rely that the people that you've empowered to do certain tasks or make certain decisions, you can have faith that you don't have to be the one that has to intervene if there's a problem, that they're going to have your back because they're smart in that area and they have the experience. So for me, that took me a little bit of time to figure it out. But once I did, it kind of lets you breathe a little bit. And also, when you know what you can't do, you're not spinning your wheels. I hated doing my books. Like I could do math, I can write down a check, like I could figure this out, but it was the least favorite part of my day. So I would put it off. And you can't, you need to know the finances of your business. So once I hired somebody to do the piece that either I didn't want to do or couldn't do, that was a stress reliever. And then I can focus on the things that I do well and that brought income or good service to the business. Mm-hmm. So I think that is where my success level was.
Awesome. So what resources were helpful to you in leveling up in your career?
Definitely joining other business organizations was a huge help for me. Starting your own company, you don't know anybody, and you need to not only meet people, but they need to know that you do this for a living. And while you can market and advertise in whatever form was appropriate at the time, and then changed as the business exploded, and also as times change, the core relationships that you make with people, that's how you build your business. Mm-hmm. I also volunteered everywhere. I joined boards, I joined community events. I love to plan events, and that's a separate skill set and a separate entity from my business, but I can showcase a lot of what I could do when I was doing events. It showed my organization, my communication, my marketing skills, and you have to spend a lot of time with people when you're planning an event, so you get to form a relationship with them. That was very helpful to me. Plus, you get to meet people that maybe you wouldn't have gotten a chance to meet, like the president of a bank, or somebody who's on the board of trustees for the library, or all sorts of different people that might have influences or their resources you can tap into. So for me, first Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Commission, and like I said, different community events, that was key for me growing my business.
Mm. And so did your shyness play into being able to ask for support?
No, I don't think that's how I got support. I think it just comes as a matter of the relationship. You don't really end up asking. People start to see a need and they start to share information. If you go to groups where, I forget what they're called, but you kind of just sit together and brainstorm, those are super helpful because all sorts of business problems are being presented. And as you're saying, well, I had this issue and I brought in this person, somebody else may say, so you're kind of jotting down like, oh, that's a good resource for me. Or then you can ask for the number, or you can say, how did that work out for you? So it becomes a conversation rather than an ask.
I see. And now you have pivoted to real estate. What prompted you to do another big pivot?
Yep. So when I hit around the 20-year mark of my company, I realized I have lived enough anxiety running that company. I started to ask myself questions about, why am I not excited about doing it? There were lots and lots of reasons, but the core reason was it's nothing I ever wanted to do. And I didn't learn that until I learned that. I had to be in the birthday of my company of 20 years old to really say, I don't want to do this anymore. So what could I do? Because when you own your own business, you think that's it. You don't think that you're going to midway get rid of it or do something different. You either sell it or it gets handed down to a family member in some cases for some people. I didn't really have any, like I never thought, who's going to buy my business? That didn't ever pass my head. And my daughter made it 100% clear she didn't want it. So you figure, okay, it's this through retirement. But my husband kind of recognized, like, you're unhappy. You are not a cheerful person. Why is that? And once we had kind of a heart to heart, he's like, so do something else. Do whatever you want. And I was like liberated, really, like, I can. Oh, well, let's see. What do I want to do? And it was pretty clear right away to me. I had always loved real estate. I had been a real estate investor prior to being an agent. So the path I have paved is clear, and that's to be a real estate agent. And the second the decision was made, I mean, literally the next day I signed up for real estate school, and everything from there on has been completely different in my life. I'm a happier person. I don't have the anxiety that I had before. I'm not responsible for anybody's paycheck anymore. That's huge.
Yeah.
And I love what I do. I get to be a part of people's milestone lives, the moments in their lives. They text me on Mother's Day, like on New Year's, that they can say Happy New Year. Clients from years ago are still connecting with me because these are relationships that I've built with them. I love them. I feel a part of their family. And that I never felt with my clients before. I was like, no, you do the work for them and then they go away. You don't want to be a part of their family. That's not the case.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. So as you think about your career body of work, if I were to ask you, what would be the book title? If you were to write a book on your career body of work, what would be the title?
I would probably call it something like the articulated ladder, a career in the making. Those ladders are the ones that bend at joints, and you can put them in all weird different shapes so that you could paint windows or get into high places with stability. And I feel like that was my career. It's going one way. Nope, we're going to pivot and we're going to go another way. And then we're going to stay there. Is it strong? No, the joints are weak. So we fell. Okay, so fix the joint, go back and bend it in a different way. It's strong. And now we can be secure in what we're doing. And I think that's the complete perfect way of describing my career.
Let me ask you, if someone were to ask you, how do you see risk, or what should they think about when they're thinking about pivoting? Because you made some big pivots. So what should they be thinking of or considering, or what's your advice around taking risk to do the pivot that you want to do?
Yes. So risk is, I think, defined in a number of ways, and each person can determine to what level of risk they feel comfortable. For me, because I always wanted to do my part in contributing to the financial wealth of our family, my decisions were based on that. But they were also the foundation of my decisions, and I only realized this years later, was the strength of my support system. You can't take risk by yourself, because if you fail, what then? But I knew that I had a very strong support base with my husband and my family. I've come up with all sorts of different ideas of things I want to do, and he's like, sure, go ahead. Okay, it's the most ridiculous idea ever, but he's like, just whatever makes you happy. So making decisions about career, knowing that if I fail, he's not going to criticize me. Instead, he's going to pick me up and help me along the way and help me decide what other way to go, helps me say, okay, with 2 feet, I'm going to jump and do this. We're together on this, right? And when he says yes, I jump. But I'm actually a risk-averse person. I like the security of knowing what my path is going to be. So when you say risk, I research everything. I make sure that Yes, it's risky, but I have taken into account what all could possibly happen. So I have a plan that should I go this way and this happens, this is the resources that I have to pull in to make sure that when I fall on a soft cushion and not something that's going to break me for all eternity. And I think that's the difference. I go in with information.
How does that serve you today with the real estate world and all the changes going on there?
It's actually, it differentiates me because people know, as a real estate agent, I make no decisions. My job is to provide my clients with information that they then can make a decision. So my research background, my communication skills, my desire to serve my clients has all contributed to my ability to say, listen, I know that you want to buy this fixer, but I learned all these things about this house. So you're welcome to make this decision, but now you are in the know that the foundation is crumbling. You know this, and you go in with full eyes open that this is going to cost a fortune to fix, but the location is fantastic and you can, sell it for $1 million later, whatever it is. And that has helped me because people never ever say, my agent didn't tell me, or I didn't know, or I never heard from her. Those are things that my clients never say.
Very exciting. It's been so great to have you on the podcast. Any parting advice for our listeners?
I believe that you need to do what feels right. And sometimes you don't see it clearly, but there is a feeling that tells you, here, try this, or go this way, or talk to that person. I think I live a little bit of regret because I have 3 dogs, and when I go to the vet and they hit me with that vet bill, I'm like, I chose wrong, but I didn't choose wrong. I chose right in everything that I did. Maybe if I would have gone to vet school, I wouldn't have stayed with my husband and I would have been married to somebody else right now. If I didn't go to marketing, maybe I wouldn't have gotten the skills that I have now to successfully help my sellers. So I'm kind of looking at it as there is no regret. There's learn from decisions you made. If it was a decision that caused a detour, learn from it, and hopefully that won't cause a roundabout way next time. But you are who you are today from your experiences that you had before. I'm proud of who I am today. I serve my clients well. I'm successful to the level that makes me happy. I sleep well at night, and I know that whatever leads in the future for me is intentional. So anybody looking, whether it's a corporate career or an entrepreneur career, work hard, surround yourself by brilliant people, and listen to your gut.
I love that. Let your intuition lead the way. Tricia, tell our listeners how they can stay in contact with you if they'd like to do so.
Absolutely. Well, my phone is the best way because I'm literally glued to it. So my phone number is 203-470-8250. But I'm on Facebook. If you Google me, I'm all over the place. Text, email, it all works. I will always respond. So I welcome anybody who wants to chat more. I love to talk real estate. So that would be the primary conversation. But anybody looking to get into real estate or start their own business, I would be happy to help.
Awesome. Well, Tricia, thank you so much for being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this week's empowering career story on the podcast. If you did, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Wherever you listen to the podcast, be sure that you are subscribing and that you rate and review the podcast. It's so important as we continue to spread the word of career empowerment. In addition, you can head over to the LinkedIn platform and join the Power of Owning Your Career discussion group. There you can have access to the guests who have been on the podcast, as well as others listening to the podcast, as well as myself, where we can continue the conversation. I hope to see you on that platform. You can also email me at pooyc@simonemorris.com if you have a suggestion for guest or a message that you want me to hear personally. Thanks so much, and make it an inspiring, empowering week in your career.